I've been asked to draw on my own experiences as a woman physician and translate them into relevant messages to the working women over here. To begin with, I'm a doctor, and as I've been introduced, I'm more specifically an obstetrician and gynecologist. And for those of you who are not aware, obstetrics and gynecology is the medical specialty that deals with pregnancy, childbirth, and the health of the female reproductive system. So here I am, I'm a woman doctor in a specialty of medicine that deals only with women, and it deals with women patients for problems that are only specific to women. I'm surrounded by women colleagues. So I can confidently say that I'm at a mini Ivan every day. So looking back, I really never had to decide on a career in medicine. Ever since I remember, this profession has been an integral part of my life. And I owe this to my physician mother, who was educated at a time where far fewer women in India were attending medical college. She's been my biggest inspiration. She practiced in an extremely small coal mining town and was very devoted to her job. My childhood memories are really vivid. As a child, I was always fascinated by the amount of adulation, the amount of respect she received. Wherever we went in that small town, whether it was a cinema hall or a temple, there was a patient or family member who recognized her and who always tried to do something which would make life more comfortable for us in small ways and big ways. I remember a time when she had to rush off in the middle of the night to save the life of a young girl, a girl who actually came from a very disadvantaged background in a nearby village to that coal mining town. And every time this girl came back to see my mother, her father would bring a delicious home-cooked chicken curry for all of us. And this is what medicine signified to me from a very early age, the ability to make a difference in someone's life. A difference that was never forgotten. It was like leaving footprints on people's hearts. I also saw my mother rise to the top job of the chief medical officer, an administrative position in this male-dominated mining conglomerate, which was overridden by unions, factionism, mining mafias. And I never ever saw her complain on that count or talk of, gender bias. She just did her job. On a personal front also, I never felt any sense of neglect. We grew up in a warm, loving, extended family surrounded by grandparents, aunts, cousins. And I also saw the extent to which my mother looked after the rest of the family to ensure that they were there for us, her children, when she couldn't be there because of her busy work. So from a very young age, I had an extremely strong role model and I had a clear ambition in front of me. I wanted to become a doctor. I wanted to rise to the top of my profession. I wanted to have a loving family. I never thought that this was impossible. I just knew it was going to take a lot of work, and that made me an incredibly determined and driven person with a passion for accomplishment. And sure enough, I gained entrance into Osmania Medical College, and I gained maximum mileage from this college in that early academic phase. This was the time my interest in obstetrics and gynecology was again established. And I must say this again came from very strong women role models. In India, this specialty of obstetrics and gynecology is almost exclusively populated by women doctors. It is also a specialty that deals with some of the most horrendous emergencies, especially in the settings of a bustling, busy government hospital handling about 25,000 deliveries a year. Most difficult surgeries which mean difference between life and death for a woman. And this was all handled by a team of women doctors. The confidence, the grit, the surgical skills and bravery they exhibited in a low resource setting was exhilarating. What impressed me also about these women, the doctors, was the empathy they had for their women patients in need. And sometimes this empathy actually far exceeded the empathy that these women's families also could provide for them. I remember one woman who was just left on the door of the emergency room at Nayapur Government Hospital, maternity hospital. She was in a collapsed state. It was simply a coincidence that we found her. And there was absolutely nobody with her, no family member. She was out there bleeding profusely. She was taken for surgery. In fact, we all donated blood. The hospital management finally managed to trace the family members, and when the husband came in, my professor who led the surgery She was a feisty lady. She just slapped him hard, for having left his wife like that and gone. In addition, these women were amazing teachers, and to this day, my clinical acumen has its roots there. And I knew this is what I wanted to do, women's health care, and thus started my quest for training in obstetrics and gynecology. And these two phases in my life really have helped me realize how important role models are in a woman's professional and personal life. And I was very fortunate to have women role models who, had the ability to shape my views, my ideals, and my actions when I was very young. And then I moved on to another important milestone while I was in medical college. This was when I met and married my husband. It was an inter-community marriage, met with a lot of resistance. We were just 23, drawing a stipend of 600 rupees each, but we went ahead and got married, and today's generation might actually call it foolish. In hindsight, I also wonder where we got the courage from. Energy of youth, bravery, leap of faith. This is the 32nd year of my marriage, and I have never once regretted that decision. My schooling and learning in this institution of marriage has taught me more life skills than any other ACE school I have ever attended. So what does marriage mean to me? To me, it's like being on a team. It's building a life with your best friend. From the big moments, like losing a parent, to the small moments, like going to a movie or washing dishes. And I'm not going to couch it by saying it's a cakewalk. There are storms, there are catastrophes, there is madness, and marriage is hard work like everything else. I will even argue that it's a negotiation, a lifetime of negotiation, the ultimate Camp David summit or the Shimla Pact, you can call it. And negotiating is not easy. We are not born with that skill. We have to develop it. It's about knowing what you want, going after it, and respecting the other person in the process. And the whole point of negotiating is to have an open mind to compromise. This means that you need to look out for yourself. You have to be willing to budge, however, to satisfy both parties. And the bottom line, all of us should remember, is that we negotiate to build relationships and not to burn bridges. That's the whole point of negotiating. Make marriages work for you, because strong marriages make strong women. Make them productive, make them better team players, make them better negotiators. Get the best out of this association. Having said that, as a society, we also need to realize that marriages are quite likely to fail. And when that happens, despite best efforts, we should seek professional help in educating and preparing ourselves to negotiate through this phase of life. I have seen extremely talented, successful women who've gone down the drain because of this one setback in their life, and it is completely unnecessary. Would you ever seek promotion? Would you ever go to a job interview? Would you ever write an exam without coaching and preparation? So if you're faced with this difficulty, seek help, seek coaching, seek preparation, and do the best out of this setback. After having completed my post-graduation from the Postgraduate Institute in Chandigarh, we moved to the United Kingdom for training. It was a decision fraught with anxiety. I had anxiety on behalf of myself, on behalf of my son, about careers, about schooling, fitting into a new culture. But once we did this stint, I realized how misplaced all this was. On a professional front, I experienced tremendous clinical growth. My clinical and surgical skills were already optimum, but the biggest differentiator that I achieved when I went there, and this is almost 20 years ago, and things have changed in India now also, I learned to respect a patient's right to ask questions. I learned to respect a patient's autonomy. I learned to incorporate patient choice into my practice, and this was crucial to the field of childbirth, where we have to design solution to fit into a patient's personality. And I completely understand when a patient asks me questions. I don't think they're challenging me. It just means that they want to know more. They're looking out for themselves. And I realized that my duty was to answer them truthfully and empathetically. And I think this was the major differentiator. We moved to the University of Michigan, where I joined into a research program, and this exposed me to the world of academia. As a family, my son really enjoyed his schooling in the UK and in the US. His education laid foundations for so much self-responsibility in the learning process, as against cramming and preparing for entrances. And I think these strong roots actually fostered in him a passion for learning for the sake of personal development and not just as a route to employment. And he's had a very diverse academic career. He majored in philosophy from the University of Chicago, and he did logic from the University of Amsterdam. He's now at Yale Business School. I think it's done us as a family a lot of good. We took the opportunity to travel. And for those of the people who talk to me about racial discrimination, I say that I faced far more discrimination here in India based on the color of my skin than I ever did abroad. I would wholeheartedly recommend a stint abroad for whichever job you are in. While managing to live our lives and adapt to a new country and new culture, we become more confident, more independent, and more self-reliant. And after 8 years abroad, we decided to return home. And I was charged with this energy that I could make a difference to healthcare. Having worked for so many years in the field of childbirth, I wanted to set up a childbirth service which addressed and optimized the needs of all stakeholders, and all this under one roof. And in Rainbow Management, I found the perfect vision and enthusiasm to take this forward. With safety as the basis, we built an amazing birthing center which provided holistic care for the unborn fetus, pregnant mother, and newborn baby under one roof. Medicine, when I returned about 20 years ago to India, was very much a personality-driven practice. Physician language and thought process was, this is what I do, this is what I believe is correct, and this is what I'm going to do. We made sure that this didn't happen at our hospital. We have a protocol, process-driven unit practicing evidence-based medicine on what is best for the patient, which can stand the test of second opinion anywhere in the world. And what I value most about this job and feel particularly proud about is that it has enabled me to create a workplace for young women where they could balance their personal and professional lives. Like I told you, obstetrics and gynecology is a specialty exclusively populated by women doctors in India. If anyone faces a gender bias in this, it'll be the men, because it's completely women. And I realized from my own life trajectory that if women doctors are given the right environment to work in, their productivity increases as they grow older. When they have young families, if we provide them professional growth in the framework of their constraints, many of them, and they are real examples in our hospital, actually become extremely successful doctors. And as their family commitments decline with children growing older, they throw themselves more and more into work. We have strived to create a workplace environment which is flexible. Our doctors work in pairs in the form of a work share model. Since this is an emergency-based specialty, babies come at any time without warning, there tends to be a lot of out-of-hours work. Once again, they share this. They're able to take vacation time. They're able to take time off to have babies and do not have the fear of losing their work or losing their patient base. We do not link payment in the initial years to the numbers they do. We pay them comfortable salaries so that they don't have to claw for numbers. As their numbers increase, we offer flexible payment models. And in this model of work, we found that stress levels are so much lower. We have a charged, driven, younger workforce, which is what the birthing process requires. The burnout levels are low, patient care optimum, high levels of natural birth. And our patients are extremely happy. They have identified that they value clear, consistent information and the positive impact of care given by teams that work together in making their event in life safe and satisfying. Returning to India, therefore, has been extremely rewarding experience on many counts. So this is what I think going abroad is very, very valuable. If we can pack some experience, get back clear take-home messages, and bring it back to our country, where there's a real requirement for change, some fresh philosophy. I've left to the end the single big life-altering event for me, which changed my perspective and understanding of professional women. During the course of my postgraduate training, I had my son. And I can say with definite certainty, having been in this profession of delivering babies, dealing with women who have children, that having children and raising them is one of the pivotal issues that impacts a woman's career. Nothing in my life, medical education, marriage, or moving abroad took as much as a toll on me as this phase, and that is the truth for all women who go through childbirth. There was a huge amount of role strain. There was criticism and disapproval from my colleagues and seniors at the workplace for inconveniencing them and having a baby and taking time off. I faced the same criticism and disapproval from my family at my ambition at being unstoppable, which is the theme of your conference, to get back to work despite having a small baby. This was one time I definitely felt a sense of backstep where my professional and personal lives were concerned. There's a constant sense of restlessness. And although the compulsive aspects of my personality and that of many women indeed, that is, we have a strong sense of guilt, we have chronic self-doubt, we take on an excessive sense of responsibility. I mean, that's so common to all professional women and even women who don't work. This actually, contributes to a lot of professional success, but these same traits also lead to a lot of personal distress, I've realized. It is this phase which opened my eyes to the huge conflicts that we as women face when we try to balance our professional and personal lives. If there's one lesson I took away from this experience, and the experience of so many women I see who go through childbirth, is that we need to plan better, we need to be more realistic, we need to be more strategic, we need to prioritize, we need to budget for a life after a baby. As you make your choices, you may have to sacrifice something. That is, you may have children and you may give up pursuing your career for that period of time. But it helps to remember that this is only for now, for this phase, and not forever. That's why you need to be deliberate about what you choose and rethink every few years about what you want to do. With all of these multiple responsibilities and roles, career women find that their personal needs are almost always last, and sometimes they even get lost. Ultimately, stress leads to burnout with its associated physical problems and illnesses. My wisdom on this is, please never give up on careers. The opportunities out there are tremendous. There are employers, organizations who are willing to make necessary changes to attract more women. Find them. I would go one step further and say, think about this when you plan your career. Think about what you want to do long term. Planning, strategy, prioritizing, that should be the mantra of a woman's life. If you have daughters, advise them when they're choosing their professions that they need to look about 15 years ahead and say what they want to do and how they're going to balance. Seek help, unabashedly, unapologetically. Seek help. You cannot do this alone. You can get it from extended families, you can get it from joint families. It worked very well for me. But remember that it's not easy when you seek this help, because you need to work hard at making that happen. You need to have skills of negotiation to keep everyone happy, people who are providing you with help and everyone else. And I, for one, have always invested in help. So prioritize, if you think you cannot get it from extended families, invest in good professional help. It is out there now. The world is really different in terms of having professional help. What you need to do is you need to prioritize, because it can be expensive. Do you want expensive saris, jewelry, or big houses? Or do you want help which will take you a long way in your professions? Some people can have all of it. Some people need to prioritize. And I always invested in help, and I see huge returns. Look after your health. As a doctor, I cannot overemphasize this. As women, our bodies take a beating because of the hormones we have and what they can do to us at various stages: puberty, menstruation, premenstrual syndrome, pregnancy, breastfeeding, menopause. And the single common mantra for all these non-disease transitions in our life is to adopt a healthy lifestyle. Eat right, sleep enough, exercise. Fitness should be a way of life. It should be non-negotiable. Age is no bar. I'm 55, I deadlift 75 kilograms. Make new friends. Friends provide support, escape, and laughter. Girlfriends make you very strong. I would recommend you watch the movie Steel Magnolias. For those of you who haven't watched it, please do. I would urge you to watch this movie. It gives you so much strength. Find life outside of work. Find an organization that you can work for if you have time. I'm part of Rotary and I contribute extensively for fundraising for a palliative care organization that we run. Find a passion and feed it. And finally, the other thing I would like to emphasize here is that most conflict sometimes comes when we dwell on gender gap. We need to stop thinking that we live in a man's world. Because in the framework of you can do everything that a man can do, you want to do everything that a man can do, the reference group is the man. And how counterintuitive is this? We are different species. Would we ever compare ourselves with a giraffe, deer, or do we question that there are different Olympic standards for men and women? We don't. We are completely different and that should stop. Women desire different things than men. They seek a fulfilling family life along with the satisfaction of engaging professional work. And it helps to accept these biological differences which shape attitudes of men and women. Success is multidimensional. It should be defined by you and not by the consensus of what is good by your peers and family. Remember that life has many phases. As you move through life, you get the opportunity to achieve professional achievement, family strength, community impact, social bonds. And you don't get them all at the same time. And it's important to accept that. The first person that you must believe you can do is yourself. You must believe you can do it. You should not believe that being a woman is a hindrance. Having a career is a very enjoyable and enriching experience in a woman's life. At a young age, we enter it full of hope and promise, and sometimes we just fall down the way because of all these life experiences that I have walked you through. And I think it is worth making that extra effort to better manage all our associated stresses so that we can maintain overall long-term satisfaction. And I don't think there's anything to be apologetic about being unstoppable. Thank you very much.